What is up, guys? It is your resident Jester here from Corrupt Studios, and today it's a very special day. It is the day where Corrupt Studios do its very first review, and I think, considering that we're in the middle of a autumn, spring sale, whatever you like to call it, I believe that I will review The Walking Dead by Telltale Games. Now, if you haven't taken advantage of the fact that episode 1 was made free about 6 months ago, I'm just going to start this off by saying you should do that. At least try it out. Just to go through some of the basics, it's a point and click adventure game. So if you don't know what that really is, think of point and click and shit goes down, for the really simplest way of putting it. So I'm gonna try and not spoil this game, which is gonna be hard considering that the majority of this game is it's one of those games that's very story based. And again, I'm just gonna start off this my more officially review we're into now. By saying that this has got one of the best stories in gaming. Now, I'm not going to say I've been around for a long time, well, in a sense I have, but I've been playing games for a very, very long time, and it's not very often that I can honestly say that the story blew me away. But I think that the story in this game is better than the vast majority of TV shows and movies out there at the moment, because I think the story is amazing. So what I'm going to do is this is how this particular game review structure is going to go down. I'm going to go through each episode. Now there are 5 episodes, and then there's a special episode which I'm also going to review, and this is just a complete package. And then I'm going to give you an overall score. I'm not going to give scores per episode because I think that just isn't how this shit's going to go down. And then I'll go through the negatives and the positives, which you know, there aren't actually very many negatives. It took me a little bit to think of negatives. The positives are really obvious. But anyway, let's get into this before I start rambling and going on a massive, just going off complete trail. So episode 1, which is the free one that you can download right now, is episode 1, A New Day. And basically this is where you get to meet Lee Everett, who's the guy you'll play as. And in the second chapter you meet the girl he effectively caretakes for the entire game, Clementine. And a lot of the story is based around their relationship. Now the purpose of episode 1 is to construct Lee and Clementine's group. They come across about 6 or 7 other guys that they, you know, at the end of the episode they become a group. And you're probably wondering, oh, that's a bit spoilerish. It really isn't. You can see that coming. If you haven't read the comics, or if you have watched the TV show and you have read the comics, then yeah, that, you know, you see that from a mile off if you're a Walking Dead guy. If you're not a Walking Dead guy, then as you can, I would like to point out, I did warn you at the beginning of this video that there may or may not be spoilers. Episode 1 gives you a small taste of the kind of moral choices you will have to make in this series, and there are a lot of them. There are a lot of choices that you will have to make that I've got to say, after a few of them, I felt bad over. And what I think the game does really well is that it's not saying you're a bad person if you choose someone over the other one, or I'm not going to say much more because I'll spoil too much. But if you make, you know, what this game really does is that it really draws you in and it gets you into the mindset of a Lee Everett character. And what I think is really good about the Lee Everett character is that, yes, he's not the world's most amazing character. I'm putting that out there now. He's pretty blank at the beginning of it. He's a guy that's just been convicted and going to prison, and then at the very beginning his car, you know, gets hit and gets pulled off the road. And that's just really quick. Really quickly what happens at the beginning, you know, and that, you know. So and that's not to say he's a bad man. You kind of find out why he did what he did, and you go, oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. He's not. I don't think he's actually a bad guy. Which, to be honest, as you can see throughout the thing, depending on, of course, how you play him, you know, you'll work out where you kind of sit on the moral spectrum. And I think that's really good that what I'm trying to get at, if I've rambled again, is that Lee's character is basically, the whole purpose of Lee is so you can imprint your own morals and your own beliefs onto him, and he'll play to that. And I think that there aren't many games that do that very well, or just don't do it in general. The other purpose of episode 1 is to find a base of operations, or a safe house, whatever you want to call it. It's basically a safe place to stay. And this is important for the next episode. Now, the next episode is called Starved to Health. Now, as the title suggests, your group has succumbed to how do we say hunger. They're not dying of hunger yet, but they're on the verges. There's a mention by one of the characters that they're within a week of not having any food. And at the beginning of the episode, you have to start rationing out stuff. You get given the responsibility of rationing, and that to me just gives a clear example as to the situation the group's in. I think that they've done that really well. The fact you've only got 4 portions of food to give out to 10 people. Now, how do you decide to do that? Because you can give the food to anyone. You can do it for the reasoning of trying to get in with someone good. You can do it for the sake of building further relationships. Trying to, if in the previous episode you've pissed off a certain someone, then give it to him. You try to make good with people's family. You might give it to more the elderly people. You might give it to the children. There's a large variety of options that you have in this choice, and that choice, it can it does genuinely build relationships in the story. Now, the 2 major themes for episode 2. I'm not going to say. I've had to I'm going to wear this really carefully so I don't spoil shit. The major theme for episode 2 is what length will people go to survive, and in this kind of situation, what it does to people on a psychological level. And you have this, and there are 2 major choices in it, which are kind of in the one choice. You basically have the choice of life and death, and you have that a lot. And as you saw in episode 1, you do have that choice between who lives and who dies, and you have a similar choice again when it's more extreme. You can let these, in this particular situation, I'm not going to spoil what happens, but you have the choice between letting everyone live or everyone die. Half of them live, half of them die. You have a vast majority of choice, and that can and it's important for your relationship with Clementine as well as to what you do, because she's learning values off you. I mean, yes, she already has value, but keep in mind that she's an 8-year-old girl that's kind of imprinting, is kind of getting the values off you, and she's there seeing all this stuff happening. The next episode's episode 3. It's called A Long Road Ahead, and the purpose of this, well, the major theme is the fact that the group's kind of falling apart. There are lots of big personalities in the group, and they're finding it hard to keep it together. Episode 3 is, for me, a bit hit and miss. I think it's probably not. I don't think it's one of the stronger episodes. However, what it does have is what I believe to be one of the top 3 or 4 shocking moments in this series. There are at least 2 of them in this one episode. Yes, it wasn't the world's greatest episode out of the 6 of them, but that's my opinion, obviously, as I'm reviewing this. But those 2 things are really important for what goes down. Episode 3 ends with a twist. I'm not going to say what it is, but the end of episode 3 is, you find out later on, it's the result of what happened in the previous episodes, and it also defines the motives of what you and the group do throughout the rest of the game. So after this happened, after episode 3 finished, I wasn't surprised that it wasn't the strongest episode, because you see in a lot of movies and TV, one of these, you have a lot of not as good build up, and then all of a sudden it gets really good again. So it's not surprising, and it's it's still good. It does introduce a variety of new characters, and it's also a further development of Clementine. There are things that you have to teach her and things that you have to do to her, so then she can survive in the world. Anyway, so the next episode's called episode 4, Around Every Corner. So the aim is so Kenny has this idea of trying to find a boat. Yes, I just spoiled whatever, but I don't care. You go to Savannah, which was what episode 3 was about, was getting to somewhere, but you end up going to Savannah, and the goal is you got to find a boat, because in the the group's hope is if they get a boat, they can escape and they can be in the safest possible place. You also meet another group, and they kind of make a little bit of an alliance, and they have to kind of create mutual trust in order to do a common goal. And now the end of episode 4 creates the tone for the final episode. The final episode, of course, being episode 5, No Time Left. This, now, in a lot of games when they say everything you've done to this point defines the last episode, and then you have situations like Mass Effect 3 where it doesn't matter for shit. But I don't want to get into Mass Effect 3 debate because I love that game. It's a fantastic game, but I'm not going to get into that. The relationships that you've made come to play, and they kind of dictate what characters will do for you. The decisions you've made will define what happens in episode 5. It does affect it. It affects what people do, people's motives, and it's also the final evolution of Clementine, especially what happens at the very end of the episode. Now, if you were someone like me who unfortunately the ending got spoilt for you, can't even remember how that happened, but the ending got spoiled for me, and even I felt that the last bit was quite emotional, and I think that it was set up really well, and it was as I said, it was the final evolution of Clementine's character, and it forced it, and I'm assuming you see that in Season 2. I haven't played Season 2 yet, but I'm keen to play Season 2. And then there's a special episode, 400 Days. And the purpose of this is that you play 5 mini campaigns, which I think last 15 minutes each. I mean, the longest one was half an hour. And you play 5 different characters in 5 different situations. And they've got different personalities, with companions or no companions, different backgrounds, different socioeconomics. So they're 5 very diverse characters, and you have the opportunity to play them, which I think is really cool. They're characters that you haven't seen yet. However, in one, you do, their group of people will be familiar. I'm just going to put it like that. You might notice where they're from. Just put that out there. And apparently it influences Season 2. But I haven't played Season 2, so I can't give any opinion on that. And it does, and you do get a few little appearances, as I've just said. So it's not I'm not going to be honest. Compared to the other 5 episodes, it's not amazing, but it's still pretty good. And it wasn't a waste of time. It was a very good piece of DLC. And now, as I said at the beginning of the shop, at this very moment of time of recording, this game is on sale for $2.50 per piece of episode, which is $12.50 in Australia, I believe. Yeah, it is. Okay, $12.50 to get all of this. Now, personally, now I've looked back at it, I could have paid $25 for this easily because it's an amazing game. So overall, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. The only negatives I have was that there was 2 occasions where I think the control scheme was tested a little bit, in terms of the fact you're in a really high-paced situation, your character's moving quite quickly, and you're having to click things. And then, if you didn't click them, you failed, and you died, and then got put back to the checkpoint. And that only happened on 2 occasions, but that was just a tiny little negative for me. Also, as well, there's, with a few people, I've had this, and I know 2 other people that have had this. There's a load save glitch, but that's really easy to fix, and I'm going to do a video on how to fix that if it happens to you. It's really not that big of a deal, but just be note of it. Now, the major positives was the story. This is a very story-centric game, and they did that really well. The character development and your relationship with other characters is really important to the drive of the story. And in my opinion, it was the way characters develop throughout and change and mature, and their moral values are tested, and in some cases they kind of fall apart, and their moral code swept away, and they do things that they never would have imagined doing. And I think that that's really cool that Telltale has been able to do that with this story. And it's not overcomplicated. The story's easy. The story is, it's very good. It's easy to follow. I think the best stories are the ones that are easy to follow. And that's not to say the story isn't complicated. because in a sense it is, but it's not like one of those things where you'll look away for like a minute, even though I don't know why you'd look away in this game because it's amazing. But if you look away, you know, it's not hard to get back into it. And the control scheme, which is the major point of the not complicated point. The control scheme is pretty easy, even though it has its situations. Anyway guys, that's my review. Hopefully I didn't ramble for too long. In the background of this video I will have The Walking Dead episode 1 from the beginning, so you guys can have a look as to what you do in this game. There'll be, so that way there's no spoilers, and you know, it's all sweet. Anyway guys, thank you for listening to the very first review. Your resident Jester is once again signing out, and hopefully seeing you again very soon. Goodbye guys.